Hello and welcome back to this episode of the Light Path Podcast. Thank you as always for joining me. And I want to say a big thank you to the feedback I got via DMs and emails and inquiries about shifting our self-concept through the self-concept view I shared a couple of episodes ago. And today we're going to dive deeper, even deeper into the heart of that topic, all about how shifting our self-concept will actually be the thing that will enable us to align with the things that we desire for ourselves and for our experience. Last episode, we talked about self-concept and how it really shapes our reality and our experience, like really going over the concept that the world that we live and experience is just a mirror to the way that we see ourselves, and basically how the quantum field responds to our energetic vibrations of our self-concept. Today we're going to explore how we can change self-concept, because it is changeable through the lots of different tools that we can use when we're trying to align with the energy of our desires. But it's not even something externally that we need to align with. It's also the internal world, like the way we want to feel about ourselves and about our lives and about how we move through our day to day. That in itself will shift everything. I mean, we might be motivated by shifting the self-concept in order to align with the things that we want, but really this is just an ongoing practice with that. So before we do that though, let's just have a quick recap on that last episode. If you haven't listened to it, obviously go back and listen to that, the one before last. It's entitled Self-Concept. But before we dive into the tools, let's have a quick recap, a quick revisit to what is meant by the subconscious mind, because our self-concept is generated from our subconscious mind. And basically, this mind is a really powerful autopilot tool. And what it does is it stores all the beliefs that we have about ourselves and the world. It stores all of our memories, all of our habits, and it actually drives, some scientists say, 95% of our actions, our thoughts, and the decisions that we're making without us even realizing it. And the subconscious is where our self-concept is deeply rooted. It's not just about surface level beliefs about ourselves. It's not like our daily mood or a reaction to the day-to-day things that are going on, even though it all contributes to those things. It is much deeper than just surface level beliefs. It's integrated into our subconscious mind from the past experiences that we've been through, from our social conditioning, and especially from our early childhood programming. So this is why for so many of us, our self-concept is on autopilot, and we're repeating these patterns of our level of worthiness, of our limitations, of our potentiality, of our abundance, or of our scarcity. Because here's the thing, whilst it's programmed, it is not fixed. Your self-concept is not fixed, which is super duper exciting. So any belief that we have about ourselves and about our place in the world and how it welcomes or rejects us can be changed. And this is where the magic of the work comes from, which is why I call my self-concept sessions the work, because this is the work. When we shift our subconscious mind through the tools I'm going to discuss below. And I think part of my ick with the manifestation movement over the last 10 or so years is it's really exploded into pop culture and our day-to-day language use, is that we are so driven by our external circumstances that we really think that if our external circumstances were a certain way, then we will feel a certain way about ourselves. And it's as simple as that. There is nothing in this world that we desire, whether we desire it to attain it or we desire it as we already have it, that we are not motivated by how that thing and how we perceive that thing will make us feel. The job, the position, the relationship, the money, the home, the car, the whatever it is. All of that is just a projection on how we perceive that thing will make us feel. Feel as in emotions, but more importantly, feel about ourselves and our level of worthiness, our level of satisfaction, and our level of ultimately acceptance, again, usually from outside circumstances. So a lot of these really great, fun, and helpful manifestation tools, such as visualization boards, affirmations, deciding what you want, writing it down, all of those things are really, really good. But ultimately, it's like standing in front of a mirror of your life and looking at something external and saying, if I fix that, if I just had that, if my relationship was just like that, if my kids behaved just like that, then I will be okay. I will feel satisfied. I accept myself, or I will feel accepted by other people. But that isn't the case. It's as within, so without. Remembering that the external is just a mirror of what is going on internally, because we live in a quantum world of energy and vibration. We are only going to be able to align with things, opportunities, people, experiences that are a like match to our internal vibration, which is cooked up and amplified and charged by our self-concept, the way we think, the way we feel about ourselves, which trickles down into the emotion, which is like the petrol. It really revs it up, the emotion of how we feel, and then we align with the things that match that. So if you're coming from a place of lack or unworthiness or fear, or just desiring something so that you are accepted by other people, then you're not going to be able to hold on to it, because the energetic vibration or the code is actually of lack or not enough or unworthy. So it will be taken away. It's like when you're standing in front of a mirror and you're looking at yourself in a mirror and you notice there's a mark on your cheek. You would never think to rub it off in the mirror. Like, you don't get out a cloth and try and get rid of that mark on your cheek by rubbing at the mirror. No, that would be crazy. We would go, oh, there's a mark on my cheek, and you would rub it off on yourself. This is the exact same thing. So our life is constantly through that mirror giving us feedback of where it is we might be stuck or limited or stagnant in our self-concept. But because our self-concept is housed in the subconscious mind for, say, 95% of what we're doing, it is going to be deeply ingrained in patterns, and we are going to have mountains of evidence through our past experiences of why this is the way it is. This is the way it always has been. I was literally in a conversation the other day with an amazing health professional, Chelsea, and actually she's going to be on the podcast soon. And she is really passionate about women's hormones and how we aren't obviously taught well enough on how to respect our cycles, and it's so linked to our divine feminine nature to do so. And many of us aren't keyed up to that. Many of us aren't doing this because we're not taught to. And so we were having this discussion, and I was sharing with her the experiences that I have been having with my body for a really long time. And when I was talking to her about this, I literally heard myself saying like, oh, it's kind of the way it's always been. Like, I can't envision a world where that changes unless I'm doing these really drastic changes. And I was like, whoops, that's kind of the point. Because if we've done the things that we've always done, obviously we're going to get the results that we've always gotten. And she reflected back to me and she said, no, that's not actually true. But if we find the things that need tweaking, if we're able to identify the slight changes that can be made and can be managed and integrate them into your habits and daily rituals, i.e., my subconscious, then we don't have to do these big drastic changes, but we can identify just those little marks on your cheek that just need wiping off or shifting and adjusting, and that can change the picture that we see, i.e., the life that we're experiencing. So how do we do that? Well, we have to it's a 2-step process. Maybe it's a 3-step process. The first step is obviously accepting, but also embracing the fact that we are always changing and evolving, and actually change is something that we desire. And so the second step of that is identifying what isn't working. It's looking into our lives for data that says, hey, I don't love the way that area of my life is going. Or I go really well at this thing and then it always falls apart. And I'm in this loop. I'm in this pattern of it going great and then crashing down. I have a friend that always whinges to me that she can get the first, the second, the third date. But she can never quite get to girlfriend relationship status. And it's like me, I know I can get my hormones in alignment with my body through a really, really strict protocol, but then it's just not realistic to keep up 24/7. And so I fall back into my patterns. And so it's identifying that it's like, okay, these are the areas of our lives that we're feeling stuck, stagnant. We're not getting the results that we like. When we look into the mirror of our life experience, it isn't reflecting back to us what we truly want. So where do we perhaps need to shift? And then that's when working on reprogramming the subconscious can begin to shift our self-concept. Because I know I would love to see myself as someone capable of working with my feminine cycle, my 29.5 day hormonal cycle. And I would love to be a woman that embraces the 4 different phases of that and respond to it with the actions that I take without having to think about it, without having to overly invest. I know I will have to overly invest at the beginning in order to shift the subconscious, to break neurological pathways in my mind that says this isn't possible or this is hard, and rewire it with experience and habits and repetition that says, actually, this is just the way it is. This is so natural. I'm completely changed my self-concept and the way of thinking. My self-concept is now I actually am in empowered control over the cycles of my body, and I can allow myself to feel empowered and energetic and flow with my systems instead of against them. So there are so many techniques that you can use to help facilitate this kind of transformation. And in this episode, I'm going to share with you a few of them. Now, remember how I mentioned before, those affirmations, those visualizations, those are really, really helpful in terms of supplementing the deeper work that you can do, because the subconscious doesn't necessarily shift and change with the conscious mind. We often have to go into the subconscious. So here are 3 of my personally used, tried and tested, my go-tos when I need to shift a perception about myself. And the ones that I'm using now, my go-to that I'm using now to shift my self-concept around what I'm seeing as a block and experiencing not experiencing the results that I want in terms of my hormonal cycle. So first things first is theta healing and meditation. We have to go into the brain waves state where we can actually access the subconscious mind and begin to shift it. And in a theta state, in this meditative state, and I use trance meditation a lot in my practices personally, but also in the practices on the Moon membership, that is where we can go deep within and begin to release old limiting beliefs, patterns and choices and concepts about ourselves, and replace them with empowering ones. And this can shift your vibration really quickly and really powerfully. So I know I keep going on about my work with the moon, and I do that unapologetically because it is the thing that has been my constant throughout the last 16 years, and I will never give it up. It is the thing that allows me to tap into my femininity. It is a very old, ancient, and sacred practice for women. And I truly believe with every cell in my body, if more women were able to ebb and flow and use the energy cycle of the moon, we would be so powerful beyond belief. Any big change, any big transformation I have had, I can literally distill it down to the work I do with the moon. And it's really simple. It's twice a month on average, every 29.5 days. It's twice in that 29.5 day cycle where I create the time to stop and sit with myself and tap into the energy, currents, and vibrations on offer with the magnetic and energetic pool of all the planets swirling around us, the lessons they hold, the opportunities they hold, the energy they infuse us with, whether we are aware of it or not. But I've become acutely aware of it and I use it, I harness it for my advantage. So the first time I will stop in a month is at a new moon. And at a new moon, it is a time to set intentions. And when I add the flavor of or the energy stamp of the new moon that we happen to be sitting under at the time, I actually amplify the effectiveness. Because, for example, I'm not sitting at a new moon that's really focused on, say, bravery and self-concept. I'm not setting intentions on that new moon about my greatest dreams. No, I'm setting them on the self-concept. But when I sit at a new moon in Leo, for example, that really is about showing up and showing yourself and really action orientated, just do it and see what happens kind of energy. So I'm setting intentions around that. And then roughly a couple of weeks later at the full moon, I'm using the really powerful and intense energy of the whole light of the moon that will show me where I am blocking myself, where my subconscious isn't helping me, where my habits, where my routines, where my choices, where my self-talk, where my self-concept is not serving me, and I, in ritual, release it. And that is why on the moon membership at every new and every full moon, I provide you with the energetic climate. I give you all that information. I give you the reflective tools through journal prompts. And then we set up a beautiful ritual for you to do that includes a guided meditation that is based in theta healing, from the music I use to how that is structured each and every new and full moon. Each meditation is completely written and channeled by me for that particular moon. And so we're doing this deep subconscious reprogramming and empowering ourselves with new ways of approaching the concept we have of ourselves. So that is my biggest way and favorite way of working on my self-concept. The other way is through emotional freedom technique, or EFT tapping. I was first introduced to EFT tapping, I'd give you a year, but I really don't know, maybe 2010. I can't remember actually, honestly, but I would be able to find out because it was right when a book called The Tapping Solution by Nick Ortner was released. I went and actually did a workshop with him and listened to him speak. So I've been using this technique for a really, really long time. And basically it integrates the meridian system where you tap physically on the meridian points of your body whilst saying very specific and certain affirmations in order to release the emotional blocks and then reprogram your subconscious. EFT tapping is so powerful, and it's not something I jump in on all the time because it's also really intense, but the emotional freedom technique is so amazing when you're really distilled down to a self-concept that really isn't working for you, that is literally blocking your bliss. And we don't want to do that. We're here to evolve, we're here to change, and change is absolutely possible. That I can guarantee you, if you're willing to do the work, in inverted commas, which leads me on to my third way, which I've used since I started my journey, and that is working with a mentor. I just mentioned Chelsea before. Like, at the moment, I'm going to be working with her as my mentor because she is the expert on this area of my self-concept that I have been struggling with. So I'm really going to draw upon her expertise, her structure, but also her presence as my accountability and wellspring of information. Could I find out the information myself? Sure, but I haven't. So I know that by having a mentor there, it's really going to help me. And the mentors I have invested in over time have been like my angels on earth, which is why being called to be a mentor in this capacity in terms of self-concept is just the most heart, mind, soul aligned thing that I can do, obviously, aside from my work on the moon. Because one of the best way to shift your self-concept and to remold it and to dynamically transform it is by working with someone who can guide you through the process. You are not alone. We are interconnected beings. We're supposed to be holding each other through life. So through these sessions where there is guided exercises, where there is that real nutting out of the self-concept aspects that are blocking your bliss, through the energy healing, through the support, through the meditations, through walking clients, through EFT tapping, we can break through our subconscious mental barriers and align we can't really align my mouth right now, but we can see. I'm so excited. I get so excited when I talk about this. Sometimes it's hard to keep up with my words, but we can align our vibration with the desires we have for a self-concept that is evolved beyond the programming and the habits of the past, therefore welcoming in a new future. So we're not constantly reaching into the mirror to try and fix, or into the external to try and fix. We're actually coming back in. And this subconscious is so strong. It is so, so strong. And it's so important that the self-concept is where we shift our vibration to align with the things that we desire, whether it's feeling worthy, whether it's believing in what is possible. This is the work of alignment, which is why manifestation is not about what you can get, it's about who you become. And when you shift your self-concept to one that is aligned with the abundance, with success, with joy, with happiness, with gratitude, you then start to move through life as a magnet as opposed to a chaser. The quantum field begins to respond rather than you reacting to what is showing up. Think of life experience like being on a social media app, something like TikTok or Instagram. Let's think about TikTok For You page, right? You're constantly being sent random videos And the way the algorithm knows to send you videos on particular topics or by particular creators is because you are spending time either interacting with it or time actually watching it and not just scrolling on. And you're spending time liking it. And also the people that you are connected with either on the app, or I don't know if they're looking into other apps, probably are, and that you're connected with in life. Like a lot of my friends will see the same creators because we're connected. So all of that comes with what we're receiving. So what we're focusing on is what we get more of on these social media apps. Exactly the same in life. Our self-concept is the lens through which we experience the world. So the more we focus on what is true for us, and we can make it up and change it and shift it at any time, it's completely within our control if we're willing to do the work. What we focus on, we're going to see turning up in our life over and over again. I have been focusing on how out of control I feel with my hormonal cycles due to my autoimmune disease, due to my experiences in the past, due to the extremes I've gone through and the results I've got as a result of that, and then not wanting to do that because that's no way to live. And if that's the only way I can get results, then do I really want results? And so all of this is how I think about my body. This is what I focus on. So I see more and more and more of that. My body responds by being like, yeah, you're right, you're not the boss of us, so I'm just going to do what I want. And it's not serving me. If you're constantly focusing on the absence of the thing that you want, let's just say you're really wanting to align with more money, and all you focus on is budgeting and the fact that you can't afford that, and you think, oh, I'm going to visualize it so I can see it, but really what it's doing is, because of your self-concept, and you may feel unworthy or unable to attract that representation of the wealth into your life. Like, I'm just going to focus on the card that I want. I'm going to see it everywhere, and I'm just going to focus on it. If that is dredging up the vibration or the emotion of not having it, so every time you get into your car, you're like, ugh, I hate my car and I just want that car. No, think positive, think positive. This is why it doesn't work. Because that vibration is you're actually focused on the lack of what it is you don't have, or the absence of what it is you don't have. How many friends do you know or have you had that constantly talk about how hard it is to be single and how there are no good guys out there or there are no good women out there? It's so hard to meet people. They're focusing on the lack and not what it is that they want. They're not pouring all their energy into how much they love themselves and how much love they've got to give. And they're not going around pouring that love into their life and into the people around them, whether they know them or not. They're not in the vibration of love, and they're definitely not in the vibration of receiving love. They're in the vibration of completely blocking love because they're focused on all the ways that it isn't showing up for them in the form that they would like it to show up. They're more connected to the vibration of the lack of the love as opposed to the want of the love. This is why we do not get what we want. We don't get what we desire. We get who we are. So when we're spending time, the algorithm of the universe sends us more of the same. So the only way to shift it is to shift that self-concept, that self-view. And when we shift our self-concept to the alignment with what it is we want, then we begin to get new content. New content shows up in the form of opportunities, experiences, and people that match who we're being, not just what we want. We need the contrast, obviously, to decide what we want, but that's the only point of the contrast. So when you see something that you don't like in your life, the only point of it is to identify what you do like. It's not to sit in it. It's not to measure your self-worth by it, or your capacity by it, or your potential by it. It's just to give you contrast, to say, oh, I don't like red. I actually like blue. Okay, now I'm just going to focus on blue. How good is blue? Like, we're so neutral to colors, right? So we don't have this emotional charge over like, oh, but red is everywhere. I'm never going to be able to get over red. All I do is see red, red, red every day. I often tell people the story of like car spots. Like, I often do not have a problem getting a car spot because I'm neutral to it. There's not this huge emotional charge to it. But one of my sisters, it gets so frustrated and anxious, she will never get a car spot because she's so emotionally focused and charged vibrationally on like the not getting it that she often doesn't get it. I hope she's not listening to this because she'll know exactly who she is. And the point is though, this whole process of self-concept and shifting it does not happen overnight, which is again why I sometimes have a problem with these pseudo-spiritual, like just say an affirmation, or like, just do a vision board and like you do it and then it's done and then nothing changes. Well, it's a process. And this is where having the right tools and support can make a huge, huge difference, which is why I've dedicated myself to helping clients shift their self-concept, to clear their energetic blocks, to reprogram their subconscious mind, to keep them accountable all along the way, even when it's hard, even when it's tricky, even when they just want to scream and shout at me like I have wanted to scream and shout at my mentors. But I do it because I know this works, because we become so much more when we allow ourselves to and we put in the work. So if you're ready to shift your self-concept to align with the things that will bring you joy, pleasure, and abundance and security and love and all the things that you desire, great. You know where to reach me by doing the work, subconscious reprogramming through the self-concept work. But hopefully I've given you some new info or reminders, for most of you more than likely, that you are so much more powerful than you give yourself credit for. That your self-concept is the thing that is steering the course of your life. It is the thing that is determining what shows up on your feed in terms of what you're seeing and experiencing in your life. And that when you're not getting what you desire on your feed, that there is a great sign that's an opportunity for a shift in your self-concept to become more in alignment, because the desires are what allows us to become more, not just get more. As always, I am just sending you so much love and light on your path, and know that myself and all the practitioners on the light path are here to help you with your self-concept, because everything they do is around building, reshaping, and often erasing a lot to do with your self-concept, because we want you to be the most empowered and in love with yourself version that you can be. Because when you walk like that, you will be offering to the world the true authentic essence of you. And that is exactly what we want, not just for you, but for everyone that comes in contact with you, that the blessings will just keep multiplying. As always, thank you so much for listening, and can't wait to chat next.